6. Thank you for watching my video. Also, catch me on these social media platforms. And if you want to see some great art, my DeviantArt art page up. And finally, support my Patreon. Thanks. Alright guys, alright. Just updating the chat. And bam. Alright. So, welcome to another half-ass show. Hooray! And guys, I want to thank everybody who's watched yesterday. I'm sorry I had to cut it a little bit shorter than normal, but I got to see a good friend from out of town. We talked all night, and we just generally had a fun little conversation. So let's finish with the parasocial relationship that people have from brands and people and all this other good shit and cultivated identity. So if you didn't see the video yesterday, it was really about how brands have actually effectively branded us to accept or pledge fealty to just any fucking thing in order to make money, which isn't cool because I don't want what is considered part of my identity to be there for someone just to make a fucking quick buck. But let's continue.
So you can win the game. So you can be a real fan.
Now, there is no such thing as a real fan and a fake fan, though. You are not a poser if you don't buy the merch.
It's only meant to create an aspirational level of fandom that functions as a system not unlike meritocracy, something that
I forgot the commercials. Come on.
that sounds good, but in which consuming makes one merit.
Work happens wherever you are, and you and your teams need video conferencing that adapts to them and makes
Merit worthy. Now, to label a group of people all competing with each other to figure out who likes something more, a community, I feel like is kind of wrong. In truth, a lot of fans differ from one another a great deal. There's deep.
So, here's the thing. If you believe that we live in a meritocracy in the Western world, then have your head so far up your ass that you can't see that where you're born usually dictates where you're gonna stay. And fuck, it's thunder and lightning here. Thunderbolts and lightning. I'm sorry, I'm fucking silly. So I can't sit back like that. I'm just not fucking comfortable. So if you think that we live in a meritocracy, I have some other news for you. We don't. We live in a, if your parents are born to a specific class, that's what you're going to be in. And quite frankly, it's not fun. And how many times, like, you've been slightly encouraged to be the number one fan or the best fan or collect them all, gotta fucking catch them all like they fucking Pokemon. And it's disheartening that people would use our natural competitive spirit against each other as like you're playing a fucking multiplayer game. Hey, hypocrisy is not a thing if you don't acknowledge it.
deep-seated hatred in fandoms just over disagreements over things that are ostensibly defined by the work that they all like so much. Star Wars fans fighting over whether The Last Jedi is good or not, especially if done publicly or, say, through the use of bots that automatically register accounts and log negative reviews, or hell, positive reviews, is simply a means to validate people with a certain opinion.
So, this is where I'm stopping it right here for a second and just say this. Do you know how many times, you've seen people actually start a flame war on several social media platforms in order to support their fandom? It's silly. It's fucking stupid. And quite frankly, people are being used against each other. And yeah, people are starting to embody the whole thing. All press is good press, and people are taking advantage of it. Now, I personally saw I actually went to see the re-releases, and here I am stating my fucking nerd cred. I like fucking sci-fi movies. I've seen all of the Star Wars movies that came out, except for Han Solo. I just didn't want to see the shit. But, damn it, some of these movies are fine. And a lot of these people get hurt because they're not respecting their fans. In other words, they're not feeding exactly what the fans want. But let's continue.
People often become friends within the fandom specifically over these types of things. And I'm certainly not telling you that you definitely do any of this stuff. But there are definitely people who do this kind of stuff. And there's definitely more of them than you think, and they're definitely acting in service of capital's interests.
So, you may not be the big fan. You may not be this big slobbering idiot who is just like the walking, talking stereotype for nerds. But they are out there. And they are out there. Trust me, they're out there.
To have these arguments go on gets the consumable attention. And if the people who are seeking profit using the consumable understand what they're doing, it doesn't matter what that attention is. It just matters that they're getting it. The community generated in fandom is often more of a validation gang than a fellowship of the commons.
Alright, so I'm going to stop it right here. And this is one of his big points. You see Peter Kaufman making this shit a lot. Where it's because you're part of a community, you're getting validated. You're getting validated that your opinion is right. You're getting validated that, you made the right choice for being a part of a specific community. Now, and you see this everywhere. You see it in fandoms. You see it even in belief communities. For example, you see it where people are one belief, either Christian or atheist or agnostic, because they're trying to validate their belief that they're doing what's right. They want to validate their understanding that what they know to be is correct. And quite frankly, you're not fucking... What you're doing is you're playing into a game, playing into a group because reasons. Because fucking these people don't like the same thing that I don't like. And that shit is that it doesn't build a stable community, especially when you're just getting in a group because of what somebody hates. It's never stable. And quite frankly, it leads to a downfall of a community. But let's continue.
Speaking in the logic of a community based entirely around the validation of individuals taking part, when a lot of people feel as though a thing is made specifically to validate them, and that other people they constantly interact with also believe this, whether competitive or not,
eventually results in a perceived ownership.
Now, this is encouraged by capital, which often wishes to cultivate the idea that the fan gives the words meaning. The creators, the distributors, and the promoters of a work will all make subtle implications that the meaning is derived from fans' enjoyment. But being what they're asking of a fan is to consume, as they buy things, whether it be a ticket to a movie, merchandise, or attendance of an event, it's actually not that outlandish of a reaction. When a fan purchases the consumption of the object.
Alright, so here's the thing, and this is one of the exciting things, is you guys can hear the storm brewing outside and actually coming down. You can actually see exactly what's going on. And basically, a lot of PR marketing and shit it's a science that's designed to trick you to buy more shit. And the thing about it is, you psychologically, in some cases, become dependent on being that fan. How many people that you saw, like, MBG, he was an Xbox Xbot, and people turned on him as soon as he said, "I'm gonna get this PlayStation and start playing the game," because he was a gamer, not just an Xbox fanboy, and people turned on him like it was nothing because they weren't part of his community because they liked the Xbox games. No, they were part of his community because they hated fucking Sony. And that doesn't make sense to me. Even when I make fun of the Jersey idiot. Even though I guess I'm part of the Dragoon community, I don't just hate the Jersey idiot because I'm part of the community. No, I actually have reasons of why the Jersey idiot offends me. He offends me because in reality, it's a minstrel show. Looking at that fool, it's a minstrel show. And quite frankly, it's one of those things where it's just like, wow, like, this is why I speak out about it. But let's continue.
Object of their enjoyment, they're not just buying that object, they're buying everything. They are investing both monetarily and emotionally. And while that perceived ownership ultimately works to generate profit, it also encourages certain behaviors. In defense of this thing, or rather the fans' emotional and monetary investment in the thing, they can bother, troll, trick, threaten, harass, stalk, and even abuse. And that's when we're talking about harmless stuff like Star Wars or Steven Universe. The National Rifle Association is doing all the same stuff entertainment companies do, except with guns. Gun culture is consumer culture. Gun owner is cultivated identity.
So yeah, and this is where the dangerous part of cultivated identity and parasocial relationships come. People use it in service of capitalism, and it becomes dangerous depending on what you use it for. People were sending death threats for a fucking movie ending because they wanted a specific character to be a child of somebody. Like, really, guys? Really? Like, that's fucking death. Fuck you. Really? But let's continue.
Whether one's identity is cultivated by capital or not, criticism of it often feels, well, like a threat. But for a person whose identity is cultivated by capital,
The threat obviously isn't actually real, but being the threat feels like a real threat, that's pretty confusing.
and though they may not know what to do with the feelings, still evokes an emotional response.
Look, he's got the Corning Stone on. He's got a Corning Stone on.
Now,
So, here's the thing. Our brains evolved to recognize threats, but we don't know how to recognize credible threats from non-credible threats. And quite frankly, this is where our problem lies, where people take it as a front. How many times have we saw people say, you're criticizing me, you're threatening me, and you're hurting me, and I'm getting persecuted? Like, for real. There are people that believe because they're being talked about on the internet, they're being persecuted. Fuck, I hit the shield! But let's continue.
Expression of emotion is often regarded as attention-seeking, and if attention is currency in the marketplace of ideas, which it is, then attention-seeking is profit-seeking. Because the attention-seeking is done in a manner that actually feeds into the profit-seeking of whatever company owns the rights to the thing that people like, it legitimizes the type of attention-seeking that people will do in the name of a consumable, whether it's fan parodies of popular music, or the
Alright, so let's just clean that up just a little bit. So the more people are encouraged to believe something is theirs, or fandom is believed to be valid, and not that any fandom isn't valid, but it's a validation of who you are to actually be that fan. People would actually spend social capital, emotional capital, and investment in being that fan. And what ends up happening is it causes them to spend more money or invest more things into that fandom. And from there, it's an unending vicious cycle. But let's continue.
aforementioned trolling and abuse, this kind of attention-seeking is legitimized because it contributes to a thing they derive identity from. This ownership can also manifest as anger towards the creators of a consumable for taking the consumable in a direction that fans disagree with. The fans own this. This is ours.
Why didn't Shepard live at the end of Mass Effect 3? The story literally exists for my consumption. And
Alright, this is just rattling off some examples of what's going on and how people take fandoms way too serious. And yeah, that's what happens. People take fandoms way too serious because they feel that it's theirs. The customer is always right because I'm spending my money, it should be what I want it to be.
validation. I own it.
But in my ownership, I am prisoner to imaginary threats. People who are fans of things that aren't the thing that I personally like are somehow a threat to my identity, as are any mild changes to what I grew up with.
So, yeah, a lot of times it's, people are just pissed because somebody is changing something that I don't like it. And how dare you violate my whole childhood? You're destroying my childhood because you're doing something that I don't like.
If childhood is the time of cultivation of your identity, that is, if Capital gets their hooks in you when you're a kid, and 20 years later, a franchise you've loved your whole life suddenly does something you don't like, it makes sense that you might say,
You killed my childhood!
You killed my childhood means you killed my identity that I have held since childhood. You killed my socialization to believe that this is mine.
But the thing is, fans don't own it. Capital does.
And if Capital owns the thing you derive identity from, your identity is a commodity. And I don't know about you, but I think that's kind of gross.
Your identity...
I'm sorry. I'm gonna make a point about this. So, I just got my ass handed to me. This new god is OP as hell. How did I get slowed down on my move? I guess I didn't trigger it. But damn, I gotta dance a different way. I think I'm gonna go get fucking Artemis next time. So here's the thing. What it said right there is fucking awesome, because what it actually just notates is that companies have had their hooks in us since we've been able to consume. I fucking remember, like, I actually did get upset when I realized, when I looked at I used to watch the Thundercats. That tells you how old I am. And when they re-released it, I almost got upset, but I gave the show a different time. But that bullshit Thundercats Go, no, that shit needs to die. That shit needs to die for real, because one, I saw a couple episodes and I don't like the characterization of what they did, and they're basically using and here I am giving a detailed description of why I find something that is not enjoyable to me. Well, mainly because it's one of those things where they're using the shell of that property in order to push toys or a narrative, and it's actually kind of sad that companies use that nostalgic twitch in order to make profit. So yeah, no, not today, dog. I'm Dustin. But let's continue.
Is you, Ray from Nowhere?
In this environment, you are a commodity. Your enjoyment is a commodity. Your social interaction is a commodity. This is what's referred to as neoliberal capitalism. Essentially, all things are commodified and market dynamics are adopted. The solution to every problem is the market. Certain actions are incentivized, gamifying the situation. This essentially dehumanizes all aspects of something. That something can be day-to-day life, or it can be fandom. Your fandom may be justified by some metric you got. Maybe Mark Hamill likes your tweets sometimes. Maybe some people don't like that because they don't think you're a real fan. So they attempt to damage the social capital that you derive from it.
Alright, so here's the thing, and this is where the parasocial relationship comes into play. Like, legit, when I realized that some people that I watched that I actually enjoy watching was watching my videos, it was fucking awesome. And it's good to fucking have people enjoy your content, especially people who's been on this platform longer than you have. And it gives you a sense of, wow, people like what I have to say. And in reality, I'm not gonna lie, when I realized that it was happening, it was fucking awesome. But then I actually started to think, like, would it change what I say? Would it change my opinion? Do I know these people in real life? And from there, I realized something. I'm thankful for everybody who watches, even people who I may admire their position on this platform. But unless I truly know that person or have interactions, I shouldn't be so starstruck, because I wouldn't want the same from people who watch me to be starstruck by me. However minute my fan base is. And this is coming from an artist. But let's continue.
Even if you don't really look at it that way.
Which I don't. As much as I do like Mark Hamill, and it's cool that he liked my tweets, it ultimately doesn't change a lot in my life.
They've got to find some way to knock you down a peg. You're a threat to their identity because you have been deemed merit-worthy. You have been deemed a real fan, even if only in the other fans' eyes. And if you're saying to yourself,
and this is exactly again where it's just like, these people don't like it. When you interact with someone who has a higher quote unquote social value than you, unless you actually interact, then they don't change your lives. unless, let's use his example. He actually starts doing a movie with fucking Mark Hamill or voice work or shit like that. Then it would matter because that's your colleague, that's your friend. But just people who are strangers in the night, does it really matter? But let's continue.
Those poor fools and their Star Wars. Tut tut. It's not just Star Wars. Hell, it's not just entertainment. It's literally everything in your life. This is part of your socialization in neoliberal capitalism. You're meant to look at everything like this. Even if no one is attempting to cultivate identity on behalf of capital, people will still act like someone is. There was no one in the driver's seat for the whole Szechuan sauce debacle. For whatever reason, people decided that it was part of their identity that Rick really loved Szechuan sauce, and McDonald's saw that and co-opted it. Capital works to co-opt organic identity as well. Identity that I wouldn't dare challenge.
Yeah, so we all saw that idiot of the video of the idiot that acted a fucking fool in the McDonald's restaurant. He was acting a plumb fucking fool over Szechuan sauce and then says, I'm Pickle Rick. That is stupid that you would have to tie your identity. Like, fuck! I'm a fucking... I feel like an asshole every time I say that shit now. I'm a fucking artist and I don't tie my identity to my self-insert characters. Even though I don't know if I have any self-insert characters. I don't know. I do. I actually do. But I still, it's one of those things where it's just, yo, like, it's really not that serious to build your identity about it. But people do. And you know what? This is one of those things that got me about the whole football kneeling. It fucking irritated my soul where at first people didn't like the protesters kneeling, and then the owners co-opted it for that particular reason. And now it's, well, the team stands together, and it was in response to a co-option of what was going on with the fucking military basically buying out a lot of the spending money to have the Americanized flag and shit like that. Like, for real. It's a counter protest to the co-op, and then it turns into another co-op. But let's continue.
In any way, shape, or form is often co-opted to sell soap or makeup or lumber.
Yeah, because people who aren't immigrant-hating bigots should buy their wood at 84 Lumber, because that makes perfect sense.
Hell, leftist politics in theory act like cultivated identity. People will often find a specific type of leftist politics they agree with and begin to form that perceived ownership we were talking about. And they'll engage in the real fan dynamic of competitive consumption of leftist theory. You're not a real fan if you haven't read the manifesto. You're not a real...
And you know what? This is right, and I know ContraPoints actually did a video on it probably about a year ago. It was actually pretty interesting what you saw in that video. And basically you see these whole you're not a real fan debates, and that shit is irritating to say the least. But let's continue.
Real fan if you haven't been bread pilled. You're not a real fan if you haven't consumed this thing that I have consumed that makes me a real fan. Look at this anarchy shirt I'm wearing. See it? I don't care that I bought this at Hot Topic. It symbolizes what I care about. I have a "This is what a feminist looks like" t-shirt for a reason, I refuse to buy anything that is not specifically endorsed by a vegan vlogger. My vegan vlogger, the one I own. Got it? If you don't watch that vegan vlogger, if you haven't read that book, if you don't subscribe to this specific method of revolution, then you're not a real fan. Is someone benefiting from you acting that way? Does someone make those shirts? Does someone produce those books and sell them for profit? How about those shirts? How about that food? Who is benefiting when you consume?
That's not me, though. My fandom is healthy. That fandom is toxic. I don't care if you're a teenager. You should try to take your own life if you draw characters wrong.
Yeah, and this is shit that I've seen. I've seen people say, well, because of this reason, because of that reason, go kill yourself. It's fucking, it's unbelievable that people would actually feel this way. They have so little they have so little faith, pride in themselves, that they have to base their identity on someone else. And the shit is crazy. The shit is just fucking crazy. And now our fucking Titan is exposed. Fucking yay. But let's continue.
Hashtag not all men. Hey now, that's no fedora. It's a trilby. It's a trilby. It's
One
a
of my
trilby.
characters have
It's a trilby! That
I'm sorry.
is a trilby. It's a trilby. Look, I'm not going to tell you that you shouldn't become emotionally attached to or affected by art and media. I'm not going to sit here and say that you're the root of the problem, because you are not the root of the problem. You know, liking stuff, even a fair amount of the collecting, and this, it's okay, it's normal, it's great even. Enjoy things, like things. Don't hold back. Be a person. But the world isn't just you or just me. There's an ever-persisting force that surrounds us and penetrates us.
So, and I like his videos. I mean, like, I generally like his videos for the message of saying that, dude, like, why are we fucking fighting in between each other? And a lot of it is just these parasocial relationships with brands, with fucking people. A lot of this shit is just shameful and quite literally disheartening. And I don't know what we're gonna do. Fuck. But yeah, let's let this play out.
It's called capitalism. And it's creating an environment where your consumption is you. It's deeply embedded itself into your psyche and my psyche. Now, you and I didn't put it there. It's not our fault that we were born into a system that encourages this in the way it does. And it really isn't fair that it's up to us to do anything about it at all, but here we are.
Alright. No. Alright, so let that play out. And yeah, just wow. If we can just attach this to gamers and shit. A lot of it is where we see this thing where it's just a lot of people are so wrapped up in what they have versus who they are. And I just want to actually see that. I want to see more of us not just have something, actually being something. I want to actually see more of us. Yes, it's fine to associate yourself with some things that you have, but also be associated with something that you are. truly are. Because in the end, when you become a commodity to be bought and traded because of your interests, it dehumanizes us. But let's go to the next response video. This is what we're gonna do next. Okay, so how long I've been streaming? Oh, good. I think I can tear down this asshole within about 20 minutes, give or take. So we're gonna go into. I know I left him alone for a while, but Monday blew. So let's go.
What was said here.
All right. So Monday blew. What can we say about you? I saw he actually expanded more of his channels, which is frightening because, yeah, no. Like this man is, he doesn't realize when you hand wave away some of the dangerous shit that some of these people actually put through and say and support, it's fucking dangerous. But we're going to get to it. We're going to have this conversation today. So let's go ahead and do this.
Hello to all my Air Force Intelligence subscribers. A website called Task and Purpose, and I'll put links to everything in the description box below. It turns out that this is a real slide from an Air Force briefing regarding incels.
All right, so as you can see, he's improved the quality of his videos a lot by not showing his ash-holish face. Now, this isn't a knock at him being any... It's not about him actually a look thing for him, because that would be cotton pot calling the kettle black. My problem with him is that he has this smug, debonair look of being, you should just give up now and you're going to be forever alone. Bullshit that we see from this man. And he wants to soften it up by putting the kitties. And we remember the videos that he has done in the past where he blatantly calls certain people just shitty ass people for having a specific belief or having a specific leaning. But yeah, no, don't soften it up now, dog. Don't soften it up now.
At least one Air Force base is on the lookout for a sinister new threat: angry men who can't get laid. Personnel at Joint Base Andrews in Maryland were recently treated to a threat brief regarding an increasing in nationwide activity by self-described incels, members of an online subculture of involuntary celibacy, who adopt an ideology of misogyny, mistrust of women, and violence in response to their failed attempts at romantic relationships. Alright, let me stop you right there. First of all, the overwhelming majority are not resorting to any kind of violence. There is no organization.
Alright, this is true, because a lot of these men and boys, they don't feel driven to comport to that type of belief or thought patterns. They don't. And to say that they all would, is a problem in and of itself to generalize. We don't want to generalize them. What we do want to do is actually bring it to sunlight the sick and disgusting shit that they actually say and do. Let's continue.
In the same way that you see among actual terrorist groups. The few who have committed violence have also had severe mental health issues. They had been to therapy. They were on prescription medication. Of course, no one wants to look at the failure of our mental health system. Instead, they want to blame online forums for this.
So, this is one of the things that kind of fucking kills me about this. These people want to claim mental health. And, oh no, not everybody who does this is part of that community who does sick, disgusting shit. or subscribe to Sick Disgusting Shit. And I'm almost a free speech absolutist when it comes to, as long as it doesn't depict or encourage violence, then you can say what the fuck you want to say, because I'm going to do the same when it comes to you. But don't sit back and say this is about people, what people say in the environment that they are in. It doesn't affect them. That's out and out bullshit, because we know it does. But let's continue.
Not that I'm saying that an echo chamber can't make things worse. However, the one thing that all the people that have gone with the mass shootings have in common is their severe mental illness. And I also realize, because of how people are, they're going to lump all men who have serious dating problems will get lumped together under this category, or at least people will be suspicious that the guy is one of these. You have an older guy who's in his 30s.
For one, older guys in their 30s, they're not fucking older guys. There are people that are just late bloomers. They don't have the 40 or 50 girls at age 30 notched into their bedposts. But it's not that people just can't get a date. And I know that's what your problem is. Well, I just can't get a date versus being an angry asshole. And this is coming from an angry asshole. I am the angry asshole. But I know one thing for sure. When you don't treat people as fucking people, you're going to have a problem with relating to said people. My God. I talking with a friend, man. They know a friend that's outside of. They know a friend that they were talking about me, and the friend knew that they were talking about me. And you know what I treated that woman like? An actual fucking person. Because I treated her like a person, she saw me as good, maybe not particular her style or taste, but she saw me as a fucking good person. And you know why I did it? It's because it doesn't make sense to me to try to always get something from people. And people like to be around you when you can have a conversation with them and not fucking talk down to them, or not actually address shit with them and make them think that they're less than you because fucking reasons. And that's what the problem is with a lot of these fucking incels and forever alone people. They think too highly of themselves when they have no evidence to. But let's continue.
And is unmarried and doesn't have much of a dating history will come under suspicion. And even long before online forums for incels existed, guys like that were always looked at kind of funny. Now the situation will only be worse for them. You also notice that they conflated two things here, where it says attempts at romantic relationships. Since the larger incel community is composed of smaller groups, yeah, there is a large chunk of the guys that are looking for relationships, not just looking for sex. In fact, the term itself, incel, even though it's being applied to a larger group of men than just the guys on the actual incel forums, is the incorrect usage of a word.
So, yes, I will actually say this. He is actually fucking right. A lot of these people are using sex as a validation method, a way of measuring their worth to people. And quite frankly, that's the wrong path to do it. But that's just the easiest way of actually claiming that they have some validation, because people want to be around them because they want to screw them. The fact is, a lot of these people don't know how to be in relationships. And they don't care to know. Because they've been taught that you need to be this, you need to be that. And it's a disaster in the making. But let's continue.
Because the involuntary celibacy focuses on the sex, rather than romantic relationships, rather than having a deep bond with a woman, which is actually what a good number of the guys who are stuck with the situation actually want. The article continues, the brief was first made public via screenshot posted to the popular Air Force AMN-NCO SNCO Facebook page on Tuesday. An Air Force spokesman confirmed the authenticity of the screenshot to Task and Purpose.
So, here's the thing, though. This fucking screenshot that he's talking about, and if you can see my mouse cursor, which I don't think you can, that shit has been around the internet for fucking forever. I remember seeing it when I was originally looking up what the incels were. And quite frankly, these motherfuckers, these incels, are it's fucking amazing how a lot of these people are just it's a reason why it's involuntary celibate versus more than just forever alone. It's a reason why that term is used the way it is, because it's not they're being too fucking simple about it. It's really that I can't get my pee-pee wet. And it's sad because, goddamn, if they wanted relationships, all they would have to do is try to be nice to people without expecting sex in the end. And maybe, just maybe, people will start saying, hey, this person is a true nice guy, not just trying to convince me to fuck him. But let's continue.
Here's the original official threat brief from Andrews. Let me scroll down. There's one of these comments here. The Virgin Army versus the Chad Air Force. Okay, that's kind of funny. Here's one of them that's a top fan. Making money off virgin losers is a favorite pastime of hers. No, it's not funny. There are guys that really struggle very brutally when it comes to dating. And mocking them for their situation is not going to make anything better. But we live in a society where when someone is down, the first reaction is to kick them in the teeth when they're down.
Now, mind you, exactly what he just said, that we live in a society, the first reaction is to kick them when they're down and make fun of them. Mind you, he says this. Let's continue.
Because America. Yeah. Back
America.
to the article.
Fuck yeah.
The screenshot was taken from a Joint Base Andrews intel brief created following basic threat analysis on an increase in nationwide activity by the group. 11th Wing spokesman Aletha Frost told Task and Purpose in an email. Several mass casualty events apparently tied to the incel movement. There's no movement. Not in the way people usually mean the word movement. It's not organized like feminism is.
What? Whoa.
Organized. It's not organized like identity politics is organized.
So, bullshit called real good bullshit on this one. Because for one, it is. Because the MRAs are an extension of the incels. The MRAs are an extension of this Forever Alone community. And the fact that you had to throw in the feminist SJW agenda actually lets us know that it's really about you're a little pissed because other people have the right to say no to you. How dare they? But again, remember, I want you to remember that. He is literally saying that the first inclination of people when they're down is to kick them when they're down. But let's continue.
There's no lobbying groups. Have occurred with relative frequency in recent years.
Yeah, it is lobbying groups. MRAs in the fucking Republican Party of most fucking states, where you see them passing bills to make sure that slut bears the burden of keeping that kid that they had out of wedlock. That's what these abortion bills are. A woman needs to pay for the sex that she's having, even if it's not by her choice.
Starting in May 2014, when Elliot Rogers, Isla Vista, yeah, you get it. I'm trying not to get demonetized.
Whoa. Elliot Rogers, and the little comment that you made, you're trying not to be demonetized. Elliot Rogers, actually, the most people he killed were fucking people that were in almost the same boat that he was, but he was the supreme gentleman. He was just a fucking asshole. He was an asshole that had fucking issues with connecting to people, and that led him to believe that he was entitled to engage with getting the hottest woman, and just like quite literally he says, I bought the car, and you know, why haven't I even kissed a woman before? I don't know, maybe because you're an asshole. At 12 I was kissing girls. The shit was fun. I joke and I joke about it, but I love me some women. And this is not me being braggadocious or anything of that nature, but yeah. But in high school, I actually had very few guy friends. I had nothing but female friends. And they taught me the value of, even though, like, I wanted to fuck some of them, they taught me the value of actually understanding them and treating them like a person. Because, you know, listening to what somebody has to say actually makes them want to open up to you more. And when that happens, hey, maybe they want to see you as something more than just a friend when you actually treat them well. I don't know. But let's continue.
Ties by YouTube again. Indeed, the screenshot appeared the day after Brian Isaac Clyde, a former Army infantryman who frequently posted memes that referenced the incel movement alongside anti-government conspiracies to his Facebook page, was shot by federal officers after he opened fire outside Dallas, Texas federal building. The screenshot features a reproduction of an internet meme popular among incels known as Becky versus Stacy, a derivative of the Virgin Walk or Virgin versus Chad meme that contrasts awkward virgin incels against an imaginary hypermasculine bro known as Chad. The Becky versus Stacy meme purportedly reflects how incels judge women based solely on their physical features. No, it's not.
The fuck is not? We're just gonna believe the shit? Let's pull it up. Let's pull it up while I'm doing it.
Page was shot by federal officers.
Let's pull up the video. Let's go to the tape. Becky versus Stacy meme. Just pulling it up right now. Sorry, guys. Let's pull it up. Let's see if I can actually pull it up. Yeah. So, and my fucking eyes hurt. This is quite literally a description of how Becky looks versus how Stacy looks. That's all it is. And it's making assumptions based on those fucking looks. How fucking dare you sit back and say it's not, when we truly have evidence that it is? Maybe you thought that we wouldn't be able to see it properly because you had it so fucking minimized. Maybe that's what you thought. But we fucking see it. We fucking see it. Are you gonna believe me or your lying eyes? Or in your case, your lying ass. But let's continue.
He opened fire outside Dallas, Texas federal building. The screenshot features a reproduction of an internet meme popular among incels known as Becky versus Stacy, a derivative of the Virgin Walk or Virgin versus Chad meme that contrasts awkward virgin incels against an imaginary hypermasculine bro known as Chad. The Becky versus Stacy meme purportedly reflects how incels judge women based solely on their physical features. No, it's not. Read what it actually says. Do I have to say that this is obvious hyperbole? Apparently I do. And meant as a form of dark humor or gallows humor for the guys who are stuck with this kind of situation. Because sometimes if you're not laughing, you're crying.
Oh, wait a minute. So it's okay. Again, remember I told you guys to be prepared for this. It's okay for you to have a gallows humor and a dark humor. But let somebody do it to your poor incels, your poor forever and alone type men. And it's a fucking problem. They're kicking somebody while they're down. They're being dishonest. They're being bullying. Get the fuck out of here.
The article continues, incels believe they are owed attention from Becky's. The joint base Andrews brief reads, most incels believe only men can be incels, as women could engage in sexual activity if they wanted to. Sure, there may be a group, and I'm sure you can find individuals who will get on camera here and there and say that they are owed attention from someone. But if you actually pay attention to it, that's not what most men who are stuck with a situation say.
No, you know what they say? They say I can't get attention and fuck the women and I'm red pilled and all that other good bullshit. They say and support having government mandated prostitution or government mandated wives. They fucking want the fucking wives' tale, the handmaiden's tale. Because fucking reasons. But let's continue.
They will say things like, they wish they had a girlfriend. That's not the same thing as entitlement. That's not the same thing as saying that you are owed a girlfriend. While Frost did not elaborate on the specifics surrounding the purported increase in nationwide activity, probably just means more people posting on forums, that prompted the threat brief, the screenshot cites an increase in discussion on popular online forums, like Reddit and 4chan that followed the April 2018 van attack in Toronto that left 10 dead at the hands of 25-year-old Alec Manassian, who lauded Roger as a hero and claimed on Facebook he wanted to incite an incel rebellion.
Alright, we actually have this up. And let's actually look at this. And increase in discussion on popular online forums like Reddit, 4chan to follow what's going on in April the 2018 van attack in Toronto that left 10 dead in the hands of 25-year. Like, he likes to hand wave shit away. Like, oh, it's not that bad, or oh, this is that. It's quite literally, he has 3 examples on the screen of this shit, and he's mentioned a 4th. What the fuck don't you see, man? What don't you understand? That this shit happens. This shit happens to a point where it's a big issue, and people are being fucking radicalized because they get their name in the paper, and there are literally a forum that says, at least if I'm a killer, women will want to sleep with me. How the fuck is wrong with you, man? What the fuck is wrong with you? Your dismissive ass attitudes for this bullshitty ass, oh, the world, woe is me. But let somebody say that as an African American, I'm sure you will have a fucking reason how it's all their fault.
The intent of the brief was to educate the Joint Base Andrews commanders on the behaviors and activities attributed to the group to safeguard our airmen installation. Well, I've got bad news, especially in your intelligence communities. It's probably a bunch of Air Force nerds, so you're going to have to investigate yourselves. Oh, you think I'm joking? And like I said earlier, one of my concerns with this kind of thing is that people tend to paint with a broad brush. People don't deal with nuance very well. They'll find out some guy has dating problems, and then, oh, he must be one of those you-know-whats. Here's another
It's not a fucking dating problem. If you have a situation where you can't keep a girlfriend, you're running in and out of relationships, nobody's going to say, oh, he must be, you know, a pimp, or he must be, you know, he must be running a stable, like, to quote the other guys, he must be running a stable of hoes. No! It's these little shit-ass attitude motherfuckers that can't relate to anybody, that fucking talk down to anybody. And this is from somebody who talks down to anybody. But goddamn, I at least treat people with fucking respect. These assholes, on the other hand, just think, Oh, oh. Fuck it. And fuck you. Let's continue.
Example of a former Army second lieutenant was discharged for unacceptable conduct that involved inappropriate contact with female soldiers. He was an avowed hater of women, who repeatedly grabbed women in real life and fantasized about doing bad things to them. And it was in poetry and novels he began running as a teenager.
A fucking problem.
His interactions with the opposite sex had gotten him fired from teaching jobs, booted from the army, and hauled before the principal in high school. So in other words, he was showing warning signs real early in life. I can almost guarantee you this is another mentally ill guy. It makes me wonder how someone like that even ended up in the army.
So it's the army's fault that they started exposing the crazy shit that he started doing even more. But it's not his fault. He's just mentally ill. No, motherfucker. Yes. Again, systems in place that fucking affect us and screw us over royally. But this motherfucker right here, he was probably told to go to the army to string himself out. Because we have to have that masculinity. Yeah. But let's continue.
The article concludes, it is unclear at this time where the request for the Joint Base Andrews Incel Threat Briefing originated, or if other units in the Air Force or other services have received similar briefings. Follow-up questions to the 11th Wing received no response. Here's an article from the Salt Lake Tribune showing that statistic about how it's young men that are driving the no sex in the past year. It's approximately 30% of men between 18 and 30 had no sex last year. A third of men. That's a lot. That's a societal problem, not just an individual problem. I mean, unfortunately for individuals, all they can do is deal with it at an individual level.
Now, mind you, he was the one that says it's not about sex. Like, those were his fucking words. That it's not about sex. It's about relationship. And yet, what does it come down to? It comes down to fucking. It comes down to sex. Like, quite literally. That's what his complaint was. It's not about sex, it's about relationships. And here we have, it's about fucking sex. It is about sex. It's about you're judging your self-worth on the amount of fucking people that you slept with. And that's sad. I had, like, it's like they haven't heard of the rule of three. If you don't know what the rule of three is, it's funny, and watch American Pie too. When it comes down to the rule of three. But yeah, this shit is unbelievably sad, because a lot of it can be solved. We can solve an incel problem right now if we stop telling our boys to stop being toxic in their masculinity. We can solve that problem right now, where we can tell our boys and guys, like, it's okay to open up. We can solve that shit right now. That shit can be solved right fucking now. But it never will. Because we have such an issue with exposing our feelings, or telling guys not to expose their feelings. But let's go.
But when 30% of your guys are experiencing this, that's a larger social problem that's going on here. And instead of actually investigating it, sending in social scientists to figure out what's going on, they just give threat briefings on it instead. I suspect a big part of what's driving this is goes along with what Robert Putnam wrote in his book back in the year 2000, Bowling Alone, The Decline in Civic Life in America, where everything from bowling leagues to fraternal organizations are going away. In other words, social hubs where people could meet one another have been vanishing in America, and apparently social media has not really replaced that same function.
You know why social hubs have been vanishing in America? I can tell you one of the big reasons why. Is because we tell people that you should be a rugged individual, and you as a man should not stand with other people in order to. You should be a man and stand on your own and all that other good bullshit. That good bullshit. That bullshit that's telling guys that, you know, they have to be strong and be a man and all that other good bullshit. Where feminism actually is probably the cure, or egalitarianism is probably the cure of what you want, but you're too pig-headed and boneheaded to actually see it because you have to be a man. Whatever, dude. Whatever. Now, let's let this fool finish it. Oh, it's almost that 2-minute mark to the end where he starts being an asshole.
So even though a lot of people focus on things like feminism, birth control, changing sexual mores, I'm not saying those don't affect it, but this is probably also having a huge effect on the problem, is the breakdown of social networks, the increasing isolation people are experiencing. There's been articles about the loneliness epidemic going on. You know, back in the 19th century, we had the extended family. We lost that. It was down to the nuclear family in the 20th century. And now we're breaking down to atomized individuals. It should be no surprise this is happening because it's part of a longer ongoing historical trend. We're going to go back to this, what was said here. Making money off virgin losers is a favorite pastime of this person.
Here we go.
You know, this is one of the things that bothers me about our society is that a lot of people would prefer superficial conformity to any kind of honesty. You know, they'll feel more comfortable with you if you just go out and have sex with literally anyone, because then you're quote unquote normal, rather than say, man, I've got some real problems going on in my life I have to work on. They're going to like that guy, the second guy who says, I have problems in my life I need to work on, a lot less than the person who superficially conforms or can tell plausible lies about a dating life he doesn't actually have.
I'm somebody who doesn't superficially conform. I'm somebody who says, hey, I may have some things of my personality that are not exactly the most stellar things I actually have. I'm that guy. But I still can relate to people. Because I fucking treat people like fucking people. Oh my God. And I don't get it. I don't get why that's such a fucking issue. Your gallows humors, some people find that shit offensive. That's the truth of the matter. I don't know why you can't understand that. I'm going to say what I want to say and fuck the SJWs. That's it. I don't get why you don't understand that. But, you know, maybe you can teach me of why you don't understand it, but I doubt it. But let's continue.
And so many people would rather have you lie to their faces than be honest about who you really are. Because money, social status, and appearances is the three basic American values that drives a lot, maybe even most people. And this is probably part of why the larger social networks, as well as trust, is breaking down.
This is also why you were so concerned about not being monetized. Come on, pot beat kettle. Let's continue.
Because a lot, maybe most people, don't care about forming deep connections with others. They just want that superficial success of looking normal or keeping up appearances. But honestly, I don't really expect any different at this point. This is America, where we just sweep our problems under the rug or completely ignore them rather than deal with them head on. The kids don't call it clown world for no reason. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. If you like the work that I do on this channel.
Alright, so we're going to actually end it for the night. I'm, of course, playing Conan and having some fucking problems trying to fucking build my base. And actually, once you get past level 30, shit becomes a lot easier. But here it goes. I want to thank everybody who's watched. You guys enjoy the rest of your night. And thank you for watching Crimson 60620 Gaming Streaming. And we're going to go ahead and do this. And peace.